We're broadcasting again. Oh, okay. Don't worry about the light. Is your phone okay? So, this is this statement that you probably heard that Prabhupada made, which is, the problem with you Westerners is you're not afraid of Maya. So it's like, the little kid's playing with fire, doesn't think he'll get burned. So Prabhupada stressed, if you understand why he stressed sadhana so much, then you'll understand that if you don't have that, you don't have the basis for success. One of the thoughts that I often have is that I travel to many places in the world, and many places that had spiritual masters that fell down, even though they fell down 96 to 30 years ago, the level of Krishna consciousness is only a shadow of what it was 30 years ago. Because the fall down devastated the whole situation. And even if that person wasn't so active in pushing Krishna consciousness, working 14 hours a day, just pushing, but he put more energy into maintaining his spiritual life, then how do you think things would be in those temples now? A lot better than they are today, I believe. You agree? So, the purity and the steadiness is very important. So we need realizations for purity and steadiness. You need sadhana and good chanting to have realization. You need good association. You need to read Prabhupada's books. And the point we're discussing is you get so many realizations from reading Prabhupada's books. Right? Yes. And a lot of people don't read them, they neglect it. And also another thing, you see when people neglect Prabhupada's books is they get strange ideas in their head about Krishna consciousness. Ideas that are not really in line with Prabhupada. That happens. And you wouldn't know if you don't read the book. How would you know? That Prabhupada doesn't want that or never said what you think he said. Like that. So, another thing that I heard in Vrindavan in 1975, we went to the Radha Damodar temple, and so Guru Das was taking us on a tour, and he said, here's the place the 6 Goswamis used to meet. There was between where the samadhis are, and then the multiple samadhis, then you go into the courtyard. And in between the samadhis and courtyard, there's a walkway. In that walkway, he said, this is where the Goswamis used to meet and have their discussions of Krishna consciousness. And then he said, that was their most important service, that discussion. Have you ever had a discussion and from that discussion got some insight into something you never understood? That ever happened to you? I think last night was also a good discussion. We got some insight. So really that's where all their insights were coming from, their discussions. And that insight was the power for which they would spread those insights. So they would take the insights they got from one another and spread that to the world. And those insights are very important for them and for giving to others. So coming together to discuss Prabhupada's books, we get insights, we get realizations. That becomes our strength. Insights are important. Because as we're traversing the path, which is dangerous and sometimes dark, we need insights to get us through the difficulty. Now you have this example. This is one of the most, I don't know if you realize this, but if you think about this story of Chaitanya Charitamrita is one of the most amazing stories. Because Krishna Das is traveling with Lord Chaitanya and he kind of bloops. Being attracted, some gypsy women got him. I don't know why they were interested in him. But they got him. They allured him. And he's Lord Chaitanya's servant. That's amazing, isn't it? Can you imagine that? You're traveling with Lord Chaitanya. somehow they got separated for a little while, and then some ladies came and lured him away. I think Mahaprabhu enacted that Leela just to show that even in the presence of Krishna, you can leave. And everybody says, how can you fall from Krishna? So, well, Krishna Das, he left. He was with Lord Chaitanya. So, yeah. Did we fall from the spiritual world, this and that? However you want to look at it, that's one thing. But Krishna Das fell from Mahaprabhu's association. So, that happened. Right? So, at the same time, Prabhupada, he has, it's very interesting, if you study Prabhupada's books, he has two themes going on, and they're actually contradictory themes. One theme is, Maya catches everybody, from the top down, great sages, great yogis, they fell. Even Brahma, Vyasadeva, right from the top, all the way down, people are falling down. So that's the one theme, that don't think you're secure. Be careful. And then the other theme is you'll always be protected by Lord Chaitanya if you follow this process. So it's got these two themes going on, which in one sense are quite contradictory to one another, if you think about it. Because there's some purports in Prabhupada's books where he's describing how powerful Maya is. It could make you feel like, what's the use? Did I tell you that story last night about Vibhishana? When Vibhishana came I think we heard this in class here a couple of weeks ago. Vibhishana came to surrender to Ram, and then Ram had to meet to discuss whether or not they'll accept him. And while that story was being told, one disciple walked out of class, and his guru, I think it was Bhaktisiddhanta, said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm trying to surrender to Lord Ram, and I see Vibhishana surrendering. He's not even accepting him, so what's the use?" And he just left. Was that a story in Bhagavatam class? You remember? Krishna Kshetra, I think, or... anyway. So anyway, you have these two themes. Maya is unconquerable, kind of like good luck, you're never going to make it. And then the other side, nobody can make it, except if you take shelter of the holy name in the process, and the sadhu and the guru, you'll have no trouble, you'll always be protected. So you have these two things going on. It's impossible, everyone falls down, and you'll be protected. Which are quite opposite, right? Two different ideas. So that's encouraging. But I would advise, don't take that you'll be protected for granted, but you'll be protected by the processes that you follow. Now, understanding this, if you ever have the occasion to read Prabhupada's letters in relation to sadhana, I just got some software on my Android, and it has Prabhupada's letters by topic. It's called Gita something. So I just shift over from iPhone to Android. So this devotee gave me called Gita something. It's got all of Prabhupada's books. And it's got, what's it called? I'll have to tell you afterwards. Does anybody have that app? The picture of Lord Jagannath says Gita something. And it's all of Prabhupada's books. What? Maybe. It's a picture of Lord Jagannath? Maybe Gita based. Anyway, there's all the letters, and then they're divided by topic. So if you read about sadhana, you would see Prabhupada over and over, he's saying the same thing. Kind of like, speaking to little kids in first grade. Make sure you get up, kids. Make sure you chant your rounds. Make sure you come to Mangalarti, and you study my books, and do service, and like again and again, same thing, over and over. 'Cause- what?
Gita-based reader.
Gita-based what?
Reader.
Reader. Gita-based reader. Picture of Lord Jagannath?
Yeah.
Gita-based reader for Android phone. Yeah. Pocket Vedas for iPhone. But this has the letters by category, which is nice. So that's why you understand that Prabhupada put so much emphasis on that. So realization, very important. Very important. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you're not getting realizations. When you come together, you read, you study Prabhupada's books, you discuss, you get so many realizations. So this devotee was pushing that. Devotees should come together, 3, 4, 5, read and discuss, read and discuss, read and discuss, and just get clarity. And the other thing is, which we know, and Prabhupada said this also, is we forget. And therefore, Nityam Bhagavata Seva. Bhagavatam says, hear every day. And then Prabhupada initiated that program, hearing every day, because we forget. Even like, you go to a class, everything's clear. What will Maya come? She'll come with her fog machine and pour fog in your brain. Right? Isn't it? There have been so many times I've had realizations based on the austerity I was doing at a particular point, or the service I was doing, or what I was studying. I would get these realizations, and then a month or two later I couldn't remember them. They were like the fog machine started kicking in, and it just got fogged out. Because I wasn't doing the same thing, therefore I wasn't getting the same realization. Right? So Nityam Bhagavata Seva means if you do it, the fog's always going to come. When you stop hearing, the fog comes, right? You have that experience? The fog machine? Maya's fog machine? Direct injection into your brain. Or you could say direct injection into your heart. So hearing is the sun which clears out the fog. And that's what's said in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is like the Krishna's sun. Rising. Right? What's the verse? Krishna, what is it? That verse? Krishna Swadharma Upagati. I forget. Nobody knows? Bhagavatam is like the sun. Risen after the departure of Lord Krishna. There's too much fog in my brain, I'm forgetting the verse. Dharma Vistaha. You know it? Yeah, what's that verse? Krishna Sudama, Dharma Jnani Divisaha, Kalo Nastam Dishamesha, Vodhanarko Dinodita. Yeah. It's the first word or two I forget, yeah. The other thing is Maya will make you crazy. And Prabhupada's books will make you sane. And what does Prabhupada say? People are mad after sense gratification. What does the word mad mean? It means crazy. Last week I was in Bangalore and my daily schedule was I was going to see one of my godbrothers, and he lived an hour and a half away. In Bangalore traffic, an hour and a half was 25 kilometers. That was an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. So we drive an hour and a half there through traffic. And unless you're driving 4 in the morning, there's traffic in Bangalore. And so maybe from like 7 o'clock till 11 at night, it's just tons of traffic. So we drive an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then we'd spend 5 hours at his place, and then we'd drive back an hour and a half or 2 hours. But one time it was 2 hours and 15 minutes because we drove back at 5:30. So 4 to 4.5 hours every day And then the last day he went to the airport, so that added an extra 2 hours. So then I was up to about 6 hours that day in Bangalore traffic. Every day, just sitting in the car. Right? So I always think when Prabhupada says people are mad, there's like 10 million people racing around and cars and scooters, and I'm looking at these people thinking, you got to be crazy to do this every day. This is madness. Why do you want to do this? Driving through traffic to get to some job you hate, so you can pay the bills, pay things for things you don't really need, that don't make you happy. This devotee told me, he said it was so funny, he was sitting in traffic once, we were on the way to Vrindavan. Somehow there was a traffic jam, and I think there was a Rolls Royce or some very expensive car. Right? So the Rolls Royce is moving like, 3 feet every 10 minutes. Right? And this little poor man, with his dirty clothes full of holes and his old rusty bike comes driving by and just drives by the Rolls Royce. And drives off, and the Rolls Royce is just sitting there, moving every few minutes, a few feet. And the devotee was just saying, this is what it's come to. So Prabhupada definitely felt we were crazy. And you could say his books were to make us sane. And people who read his books become sane. They understand the craziness. He points it out. If you ever listen to Prabhupada's morning walks, he points out the craziness all the time. Perhaps you've heard, Prabhupada, I was just yesterday or day before, I was listening to Prabhupada talking about man walking his dog. And Prabhupada said, he's a big, big man, and actually he's not walking his dog is walking him. And he's big, big man, and he doesn't realize that he's controlled by a dog. He said, and nobody sees that he's just servant of the dog, controlled by the dog, dog's walking him. So Prabhupada just, that's how Prabhupada points things out. We all accept it one way, and Prabhupada said, no, it's not like that. And early in the early days, Prabhupada saw this advertisement for cigarettes, and there was a company in America called Kool. Because the filter on the cigarette had menthol in it. So when you do your smoke pranayam, I just tell them to smoke without the, just pretend you're smoking and do pranayam. That's better. But you do your smoking pranayam through a filter that has a menthol flavor. So they called it Kool, because menthol was cool. And Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam class, he said, they're smoking fire and they're calling it cool. And it was just like he'd always point out these paradoxes that are so obvious, but nobody thinks about it, isn't it? Because I think when you're trying to enjoy the material world, you don't look at the paradoxes, you only look at how you can enjoy it. He would always point them out. And that was kind of Prabhupada's signature, pointing out paradoxes. Why are they not questioned? They do this, but this is the result why they're not questioned. So I'm sitting in this traffic and I'm thinking, only crazy people could create a city like that, where it takes you, I think to get from one end to the other would take you 3 or more hours. And during traffic, probably 4. And 10 million people and growing. And it's just like you drive for 3 hours, the city never ends. And there's traffic all the way through. Every hour you drive, it's crowded. It's insanity. And Prabhupada is telling people, go back to the village. And they're all leaving the village and going to the city. So he sees it as madness. Right? And now, the last point I want to make, then we can have some discussion. One of the mistakes I think has been made is that Prabhupada talks a lot in his lectures and his books about karmis and fools and rascals. Right? You've heard that, right? If you've been a devotee, you've heard the word fools and rascals, right? All fools and rascals. Karmis, fruitive workers, working hard like an what? An ass. Yeah, we've all heard it. Hard working like an ass. Yeah.